This is a part 2 video for the circulatory system. And we're going to talk about valves. And your valves prevent backflow of blood. Prevent backflow of blood. And we have, 3 different kinds of these valves. And the first set, again, let's orient ourselves, is between the right atrium. So this chamber here is going to be the right atrium. And it is between the right atrium and the chamber below it, which is the right ventricle. Right ventricle. Ventricle. So blood is normally supposed to flow in this direction, but if whatever reason blood is trying to go up, this is no good. We need a valve to shut this this opening here, and this valve here we call the tricuspid valve. So this closes shut to prevent backflow. This is the tricuspid valve. Okay, now let me make some space for the second valve in our body. Okay, the second valve occurs on the left side of circulation. Oops. Okay, so the anterior chamber, the one on top, we call this the left atrium. Call this the left atrium, and the chamber directly below it, this thick, muscularly wall chamber, we call this left ventricle. Remember, this blood is oxygenated, so I'm going to use a red arrow. Blood is normally supposed to go down in this direction, but if for whatever reason, because of pressure differences, blood's trying to go up, that's no good. You're going to have a valve here that's going to close shut, prevent this backflow. So the valve on this side of the heart, we call this the bicuspid valve. So this is the bicuspid valve. And these valves have other names as well, but you can use these or you can look up the other ones. Okay, and again, these just prevent backflow. The third type are the semilunar valves, and this occurs twice. You have 2 of these, and this is when you are leaving the heart. Remember, there were 2 times in the circulatory system we leave the heart. Leaving the heart. So if you remember, the first time occurred on the right side of circulation. We have the right atrium. Here's my anterior chamber. Blood goes below to the right ventricle. And now the next step was this pulmonary trunk, which branches off to the pulmonary arteries and eventually to the lungs. So blood again is normally supposed to go down this way, and it's supposed to go here. But again, if for whatever reason blood is going to go back down, that's no good. We need a valve here that's going to shut this pathway up to prevent this backflow. So here is a semilunar valve when we are leaving the heart. Semilunar valve. Okay, and if you remember, the second time we left the heart was on the left side of circulation. Okay. Left side of circulation. The anterior chamber, the one towards the top, this is the left atrium. Chamber directly below it, this chamber here is the left, let's use green, this is the left ventricle. And after the left ventricle, we have this, large artery that takes blood away, to tissue above the heart and also tissue below the heart. This is your aorta. This is your aorta. So again, blood is supposed to flow down into the ventricles and then up like this, like so. If, for whatever reason, blood is trying to go back down, that is no good. So here we also have a valve here that's going to close shut if blood ever tries to go in the wrong direction. This is also called a semilunar valve. Okay, and one acronym I use, if you forget what naming is for which side of the heart, is this one right here. This one is LabRats. And here, this stands for left atrium. So we're on the left side of circulation. Is the bicuspid, B for bicuspid, B for bicuspid valve. And the RATS part, this stands for right atrium, the RA. And on the right side, we have the tricuspid valve. That's what the T stands for. Tricuspid valve. Okay. So here is the image of a sheep's heart, an external view. Now let's try to label a few things. I can kind of make out this little diagonal going to the bottom left corner. This structure here, this is called the has a bit of a long name, interventricular sulcus. What this word translates to, it literally means between the ventricles. So this tells me where two other structures are, between the ventricles. Between the ventricles. Okay, if you're ever below the sulcus, I automatically know that this is the left ventricle. If you are above the sulcus, above this dashed line, this area here is the right ventricle. Okay. Now from the left ventricle, if you were to follow this up to the right, this area here, this area would be the left atrium. Left atrium. So this area up here is the left atrium. I guess I'll put this in right there. Okay, and now I'm going to erase this because it's covering another structure. So we have left atrium. Let me erase this. Erase this. Okay, I can make out this little ear structure. It looks like an ear, and we call this an auricle. So this here is an auricle. And this expands to allow more blood to enter. So if we ever need to pump out more blood, this auricle can function to, allow expansion, expand to allow, more blood to enter the heart, in this case, to enter the heart. And this is attached to the left atrium. So the full name for this would be, the auricle of the left atrium. Left atrium. This tells me that there should be one on the right side, and that is the case. We just can't see it on this view. So auricle of the left atrium. So remember, there is one on the other side as well. Okay, so now from the right ventricle, I'm going to follow up to the right, and I can see this tube exiting from the right ventricle. If you go back to your notes, the tube exiting from the right ventricle, this is the pulmonary trunk. Pulmonary trunk. And we know this is going to bring blood to the lungs for oxygenation. Okay. All this white tissue, lighter colored beige tissue, this is fat. Fat on the heart. And lastly, this bottom corner of the heart, as a labeling area, we call this the apex. Apex. I think that's all I wanted to mention for that. Okay, now here is the same structure, but cut in half. So I'm going to highlight the structures you should, be familiar with. Here is again the apex. Here's a left ventricle. We can tell it's left ventricle because it has a thick muscular wall, compared to this chamber here, which has a not as thick muscular wall. Okay, so left ventricle. We have the right ventricle. Again, notice that its wall isn't as thick as the left side. And kind of dividing both of these structures is the interventricular, not sulcus, but septum this time. And this is just an area that divides the ventricles, but from the inside. Okay. Here we have our valves. So this would be on the left side. And attached to these valves are these, string-like structures. We call these chordae tendineae. And these, close shut when backflow occurs. They pull the valve shut. So the chordae tendineae, so CT, pull the valve shut, during backflow. And then we also have one for the other valves on the other side of the heart. And right side tells me it's tricuspid. And there are also the semilunar ones when we're exiting the heart. And here are the structures you'll be responsible for.